Happy Wednesday. We're so excited to be here.
Excited to be back. It's been a couple of weeks.
It has, I know. So welcome to everyone that is just here for the first time. My name is Bonnie Schmidt, and I am joined by the amazing Liz Joy Moore. And Liz, I'm so glad you're back. And I'd love to hear just a little bit about the training. How was it? I know you hopped on and did a live to just explain a little bit about it. But for friends that weren't able to watch it, I'm so excited to hear how it's been going.
Yeah, well, it's somewhat still in progress, but thanks for asking, Bonds. And so, for those that don't know, Bonnie and I like to run this space, and we jump on here and talk and do journaling, and we ask questions and do experiential body-based activities, all framed around like rewiring our brains for more resilience and working with our anxiety. And we also do it outside of here. And so last week, if you didn't catch my short little live, I was working with a group of rec therapists, milieu therapists, social workers at a site in Yonkers, New York called Andrus. And this is one of those places that I haven't been able to be back there in a couple years because of COVID, or years in general. But I'm just always humbled when I meet the folks that work there, right? And we have had some of our new members are coming from Andrus because, of course, now they know about our group. So yay, welcome!
Yay, it's so exciting!
So fun to have them.
Yeah.
We started 4 of an 8-day training where I'm there, but really between these 4 days and the 4 days in July, it's kind of a consistent training on their part, right? And our part, we encourage them to use the material, and then we'll kind of check it again in July and learn some new stuff. It was great. It's hard for me to say that because I'm like, it's whatever they felt and how they use the information, but. We learned a bunch of techniques, a lot of stuff that we've taught on here from, and they're working with kids that have seen a lot of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
But they use a lot of the techniques that we see and share, because obviously they're very related, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of the body-based activities, we use a lot of play. They have a low and high ropes challenge course on site. And so we were doing a lot of stuff with the low ropes and activities. There's coaching techniques and ways of questioning and reflecting that come from the adventure world, that come from the trauma world. We used a bunch of mindfulness-based cognitive therapy tools. I don't know.
So much stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it supports it all. It's amazing. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, but they did a good job. I mean, they have all of their work, and then these trainings are long, active days. So my hat's off to them always, to take on this information and try to find a new way to use it. And I know it will benefit them too, right? It benefits them in the long run because it makes their job a little bit lighter and easier, or the nature of the work. But it does take some work and trying the new content like anything else does, right? And feeling comfortable facilitating these kinds of things. So it's a big undertaking. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, so great. I've loved hearing the stories that you've shared so far about it. I'm excited to just hear more. So glad you're back. And just so excited to be here. Good morning, Kristen and Joy and Donna Marie. So exciting to see all of you. If you're joining us live, please say hello. Or if you're joining us for the replay, say hello. We'll always see you. Good morning, Maria. And we're just really excited to have all of you here, and super pumped to start this month off with energy, talking about energy. So we're today going to sort of lay the foundation for the rest of the month's content. And we're just really excited to talk about energy. And, go ahead, Liz.
No, I was just going to, and speaking of energy, it always comes back to this group, and just hats off to Joy, just left a beautiful post. And I know Jackie's been going through a new job, and just the energy in this group of how you each not only support others And, but also just share your moments of wins and share your moments of struggle. I know Sue was asking and put some questions out to the group last week, and that's what this group is all about. So bravo just to the energy of this group, and thanks for contributing.
So good. Yeah. And we love hearing about those little things. So keep sharing. So we wanted to start again with like a little bit of just some journaling. And so if you have a pen and paper nearby, or, even your phone to type in your notes, that would definitely work too. And we wanted to just kind of check in to start today and do a little bit of journaling around energy and what energy really means to you. What do you think about when you think about energy in your own body, right? Because energy can take many different forms. We can think about it in so many different ways. So we just want to take a little bit of time to just ask you a few questions and give us all some time and space just to consider what this means for us. Like, what are the things that we already know about energy? What are some of the things we'd love to learn about energy? And it's just a way to get curious about it, which of course is one of our favorite words. And just to see how it feels for our own selves before we kind of dive into a little bit more content for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So grab your pen and paper and or your phone or whatever you're going to write on, your whiteboard if you have one, whatever you've got going on over there.
or you can type your answers into us if you want to share.
Yeah, we'd love to hear if you want to share. And just first write out a little bit or think out what really comes to mind for you when you consider energy in your body. And again, write about it in whatever way. We're sort of giving you an open-ended type of
very broad
response. Yeah. So we'll give you a minute to do that. And then we'll ask a couple other questions. You're already laughing over there, Liz. I love it.
It'd be really funny if I just fell asleep right now.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And just, for folks as you process energy, I'm thinking about this, I don't know about where you're going with it, Bonds, but where it shows up in my body, what kinds of energy I experience, and I'm thinking about it both from energy I feel like I get and receive and or curate, or the lack thereof, right? So both kind of is giving me a different response, which caused me to laugh.
Okay. Liz, are you kind of to a good spot?
I could keep going, so you should just stop me.
Yeah. Stop me now. All right. So for you, Liz, what do you have going on? What do you think about when you think about energy in your own body?
Well, I like the first thing that's just the most obvious to me that pops up is just sleep, right? I very much know when I don't have enough sleep. It's the most obvious one to me, right?
Yeah.
So that's one that I think the most is whenever I have a lack of sleep, or I got an abundant sleep, that most shows up and I feel like in my daily life. And then I feel like in my work, right? So my work often involves some movement, but I'm often exhausted after a full day of training, but it's not really from movement. It's from mental energy, right? Constantly observing, noticing, questioning, encouraging, challenging, right? and I'm always reassessing, and I love it, but I'm super, at the end of the day, I'm exhausted. But that's from like my mental energy, right? And I'm always amazed at how much that shows up in my physical body. Over years and years, I've always been amazed by that. So that kind of popped up as like mental versus physical. And then I was thinking about like how when I feel like I have really high energy, it also equates to like I feel like a lot of joy. Or like if I feel a lot of joy, I feel a lot of high energy, so that's just like energy from excitement, and then I think more of my like learned energy is like definitely in the body based world, like mudras, and that's more of something that I've practiced and learned, which some of you know from just past lives. We practice some hand mudras, and I'm super in tune and aware of what like energy movement is happening through my body, from breath and from kind of hand positioning of the body. So there's like energy that I'm aware of and feel, from my work, from my life, as I'm sure all of you can relate. And then I feel like there's like this energy that I've learned about that I'm very aware of now.
Yeah. And if you have friends that are here that are popping up for you, or if you're watching the replay, let us know. Pop them in the chat because we would love to hear. For me, what's comes up is just sort of my general ebb and flow of my day. I was thinking about the book In the Flow, Liz, actually, because which is a brilliant book by Alyssa Vitti, if you have not read it, but it's essentially about that we have like the circadian rhythm, but we also have an infradian rhythm, which is tied to our hormonal cycles as women. And we've talked about that a little bit before, but I have a friend who explained this to me one time. She was struggling with some different health things going on and wasn't sure if it was autoimmune or whatever. And she's like, it's like every day I wake up and I don't know how many spoons I'm going to have. Like, am I just going to have like one spoon for the day, or will I have like 36 spoons? And every day for her was so different in the amount of like oomph she had, right? Or just energy. So for me, I kind of consider it as like, okay, the ebbs and flow of the day and days, weeks of like where I'm feeling a lot more energy or where I'm not,
Right.
And then I really think about it too on a deep spiritual level and also like an energy healing level. I do a lot with Reiki and, just heart math, but it's so cool because all of the energy work is now really coming very science mainstream, which is so amazing because they're starting to be able to measure,
data.
Not starting, but
data.
And there's science to back so much of the energy work. So anyway, those are the things that kind of pop up in a big way for me when I think about energy. So
I like how you thought. I like how you went through like your day, and I know we've talked about that before. We've talked about like what part of our day, what we experience and what it's best used for. Did we do that in the live? I think months ago, but yeah. Cool, Buns.
Yeah. All right. So the next question we just want to dive quickly into is, how are we fueling our energy? So where do we feel like we're getting our energy from? And we'll just give you a little bit of time about a minute to sort that out.
Great.
Okay, Liz, you have a good couple things down there?
Yeah.
Cool.
Just like the first 4 or 5 that popped into my mind.
Perfect. So how do you fuel your energy? What comes up for you?
Yeah, good sleep again.
Yeah.
This is like the first thing I think of. Purpose, my work fuels
Yeah.
me. Love, like for my nieces, I get so much energy when I'm around them, even if I'm like not energized, it immediately will energize me. I'm an aunt, so
Yeah.
that, I can step away, which I know parents don't have as much for. Explorations and adventures, as many of you now know, I just the outdoors. I get so much energy from the outdoors, and I think it's that state of curiosity, which I've shared once, has been one of my best tools to work with my anxiety. Is when I learned to curate this for good,
Yeah.
instead of harm, and food. And I've known that from a lot of my adventures. When I'm drained, if I eat some food, I can feel some energy from that. Different kind of energy, but we'll get into that.
Yeah. Yeah. That came up for me. I was thinking of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, food and water and exercise, movement, all of those things. But another thing that really fuels me energetically, I think, is relationship. And I was reflecting on that, of how difficult that's been since the beginning of COVID, and how, it's been hard. And I think a lot of people are just energetically feeling really low from that lack of connection, Yeah. So that's definitely one thing that really fuels me, is just that relationship. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, that's that love that yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. So last question is, why is energy something that's important to you? Or if it's not, why do you feel that way about it? Just consider for a moment, just sort of, where is it at on the scale of importance or priority for you right now? And then over the month, it'll be neat to see if and how that changes for you.
Mm-hmm. And can I add something to that, Bonds?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And if it's something you've never really thought about before, like what questions or curiosities do you have about energy?
Yes. What do you want to learn? Okay, Liz.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have it's kind of a
Yeah.
quicker answer. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think it's thinking about things I've thought about a lot, but from a different angle, right? I think about purpose and like all those things I just mentioned, purpose, love, adventures, but I haven't thought about it from an energy angle, right? Like, where does my energy come from? Why does it show up the way it does? Well, until more recently, right? Like, but I didn't really understand. I didn't know the differences of energies in the body, right? I didn't know how mudras worked, and so now I'm like, oh, I can use this information to support me in a time of need with that combined awareness and learning, right? And that creating that pause that we talked about last month, and courage,
Yeah.
So I think just more knowledge about where it comes from and how it exists, and how to curate some, what to do in a moment of need, depending on what kind of energy is slacking or lacking. I mean, is something of importance,
Yeah. It's so true. So true. Good morning, Trish hopped on, and Amanda, yay, and Rochelle and Sahira's on. So nice to see all of you. So for me, I definitely consider it, for sure. It's actually a high consideration for me. And I think, and we'll get more into this in the coming weeks, but, it's like, I know up here all the things that I should be doing to like have more energy. And it's just a matter of like implementing those things and how to implement in a way that's sustainable. So I think that's kind of where I sit, where I sit with it. So yeah. Well, so we, as the lovely science geeks that we are, we just wanted to start off each of these months with just a bit of the science behind, whatever topic that we're talking about, because we love that, because we feel like it really connects, again, that intellect to that space of insight. So we can really move it from a space of knowledge to a place of insight, from the head to the heart and body. And so, and again, a lot of these things that used to be considered really woo-woo when it came to energy work is just coming more mainstream because we now have the science to really back it up. And what couldn't be really measured before, it could be felt intuitively, right? But now there's ways that we have to measure these things. So there's really 3 different types of energy in the body. And Liz, why don't you go ahead and start us off with talking about the first one?
Sure, especially because it's on my list.
Yeah, totally.
There's 3 main energies that show up in the body, as Bonnie mentioned, and
we're talking
one of them
physically. Sorry to interrupt. To begin with,
thanks.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they also relate, right? So it's not like they are separate from each other, right? Mm-hmm. Like they overlap, right? But to kind of give it a category, so we kind of understand what's going on in our body. One of them is chemical energy, right? And we mentioned, I think a couple lives ago, of just there's all different kinds of energy. I think when I introduced some mudras, and so chemical energy is stored in foods and in the body, or is stored in foods and is in the body as chemical energy. Okay, and then food is broken. Let's go to what you know. Right. So when you eat food, right, and you're lacking a little energy, right, it's not an immediate effect, but you notice over the span of 10 to 40 minutes or so, a change in your energy. Right. Mm-hmm. So when the food breaks down, it travels through the blood to our cells. All right. And that provides energy to the body. So we've talked a little bit about cells and done some, diagrams of kind of how many cells are in our body and how they work, right, to kind of create energy in the body. So that these foods broken down are feeding those cells, right? And it takes a little longer than some of the energies we'll see. It's still pretty quick. I think the body's still pretty amazing at responding, noticing what we need, asking for it, receiving it, and then having that reaction, right? But there are other energies that are immediate. Okay, so so if you've ever done any exercise, right, and then after some time, like noticed you're hungry or noticed that you need a bit of energy, right, and you reach for food, that's your body telling you that's what you need, right? And so that you probably already know this, but it does show up in the form of chemical energy. So for example, like in order to stand up or jump, your body changes the chemical energy stored in food you have eaten into mechanical energy of moving the muscles. So we need that food, right? And I think it's one of those things that we know, and but I think I shared this with you, Bonnie. Sometimes I don't even know that the energy I'm lacking is food. Sometimes I won't feel hungry, right? Like I'll be moving, and I don't know if others have experienced this, where and now I've been an outdoor and adventure educator for a while, and I remember being on a hike and being encouraged to eat something, and I remember thinking, but I'm not hungry, and they're like, it's just time. It's been enough time. Let's eat something. And I sat down and I did. And about 15 minutes later, I had like this boost of energy, and I didn't even realize I was lacking in it. Right. So it kind of aligns in my mind with, when you're thirsty is when you're dehydrated. When you notice you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. Right. Yeah. So, your body will tell you, but your body's telling you when you're lacking or deficient in something. Right. So you're kind of staying ahead of the game, especially when you're aware, like, okay, I'm using my body this way. Right. I'm exerting a lot of energy. We know we need that energy. Right. So, but anyway, that's true. Chemical energy, which is one of the 3 types that shows up in our physical body.
Mm-hmm. I love the quote that is from Einstein about how, and I'm sure all of you have heard it, right? But that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. And this is very true within our bodies, how energy is transferred from one system to another, depending on what's going on in your body. So, the second form of energy that really is alive and well in the body in so many amazing ways is electrical energy. And I talk about that a lot, like electromagnetic energy with Heart Math. If you've listened to any of the Heart Math podcast or the lives that we've done about Heart Math, it's so fascinating. Electrical energy is so fascinating, and it's the type of energy that helps all of your nerve impulses and all the synapses between the nerve cells in your brain to fire signals back and forth, right? And that process happens super quickly, right? So electrical energy comes into play when you are, you're cooking and you accidentally touch something hot, right? And your hand gets that signal of heat. And then all of a sudden the messages travel up and down your nervous system. That's like, pull your hand away, right? Well, that happens in, milliseconds. It's such a quick process. For that information to travel and then get the message to your hand to pull it away from the heat or whatever might be going on, right? So that's a way that, just an example of how electrical energy is alive in your body and how it works. One thing that I found out that I loved is that a human body can generate around 75 kilowatts of energy per day. I'm like, I could light up light bulbs, it's just such a cool thing to consider. But when
we are a renewable resource.
yeah, exactly. We totally are. And I love the idea of looking at, cells in the brain, your neurons, which are your nerve cells that are in the brain. Just being able to carry that message from point A to point B, right? And there's an electrical charge when the message jumps from one cell to the next until it gets to where it needs to go, right? And again, that's why that process is super, super quick. So one thing that I think is really interesting is that our body's equivalent of like a power outage, right, might show up as pain in the body, numbness, might show up as brain fog, might show up as, muscle atrophy, or just any body function just not working up to par, right? So I just thought that was interesting. I've never considered those things that have come up in my body from time to time as, like a power outage, a space where my electricity is not doing what it needs to be doing in each moment. So
firing,
that was really interesting. Yeah.
It is.
Oh, sorry, I've got a little tickle.
You're right. I can pass my water to you.
I know. I was like, I didn't bring my tea downstairs. It's okay. I'll be fine. So the third type of energy in the body is when that chemical energy from food converts into something called thermal energy. And we all experience this. So you can experience it right now when you put your hands on your body, right? You're warm, our bodies keep us at all. This is interesting. I just read an article about how 98.6 they have found like really is not the basal body temperature anymore.
Really?
Lower. Yeah. Which I'm like, if I take my temp, particularly in the morning, which is where your lowest temperature is, I'm always at like a 97.6. That's like just typically my body temperature is
you said in the morning?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is energy that really helps us to maintain our body temperature. And, if you think about the ways that your body reacts. We are all very different, right? Liz and I were talking about this yesterday in heat and in cold, and the ways that we work to keep our bodies warm and to keep our bodies cool, And it's interesting. After I had babies, I am so much more uncomfortable in heat now. When I was growing up, I grew up in Chicago. It's super hot, super humid. I could lay out for like hours on end and it would not bug me at all. But there was some hormonal shift when I ended up having kiddos that, I just get pretty uncomfortable in heat. So when I'm out in the heat, if I have a hat, I'm so much better. But I'll bring like spray bottles with me when we're in Hawaii. I go hiking and I bring like spray bottles or wet wipes or something, just to kind of so that I don't overheat. Yeah, because I can really feel it creep up. And Yeah. So just its thermal energy is really the way that did I cut out there, Liz?
No.
Oh, okay. That thermal energy really is the way that, our bodies just help us to maintain temperatures. And of course, we are this temperature for a reason, right? And there's a myriad of science behind all that we're not going to go into today. But
yeah. And just like just like electrical energy, right? We know when something's off, right? Because our temperature changes.
Yeah.
Right. So it's amazing. The body's just giving us information.
It is amazing. Okay, I'm going to pop in the comments here really quick. So Kristen said, I said some days limitless, some days limited for energy. Yeah, I think we all feel like that.
That's really well said.
At different times of life. I know, right?
Yeah,
so good. I have a greater understanding of the sort of ability of my body, though, and the areas where I need to add in more self-care after reading that book in the flow. So interesting. And then Joy said, I also had sleep and balanced meals and nature. Yay. I need to have energy to be productive during the day and help others. What if I can't do? Which I can't do if I have.
It's so true. Yeah. Oh, it's so hard to do, right? Like, especially when you want to have that energy, like when you really, like when I want to really be there for a friend or right. And I like literally have no energy. It's so difficult.
Yeah, it is. It's so true.
Yeah.
So, how can we take care of our energy? And this was something that I have never considered in this particular frame. Yeah, like ever. It really was kind of a new concept to me. I'm like, wow, okay, so I have this chemical energy. Of course, everything transfers. This electrical energy and this thermal energy. So what are the ways that we can work to really support our physical energetic systems in our body? And
they're not surprising.
Exactly. It's okay. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. So Liz, you want to start us off with chemical?
Yeah, sure. You can probably already guess it, right? Eat well. Right?
Yeah.
But I do love how they, or fascinating how they overlap, right? Because I know I'm going to you think about what you choose to eat, and now this is more of an Ayurvedic frame of mind, but which is a type of modality, right? But you think of also thermal energy, right? Supposedly the way we're made up also, like I run hot, and I know, Bonnie, you run cold. And so I actually look for foods, and I've done this for a long time now, that are cooling. So like I have a big jug of cool water in my fridge, and I always add limes to it because lime juice is a cooling agent. And I drink lime juice constantly. I wonder if my dentist would say, boo. But so you can eat foods that are hot or cold. And if you're interested in those, like look up Ayurvedic medicine, and you can probably take online exams that kind of figure like, kind of body type you are. There's 3 main body types. And then, I like a heating food would be like garlic and onions, and I still eat garlic and onions, but if I'm overheated, I won't, right? Or if I'm having like a tough time with heat, I won't. So I can help regulate my thermal and my chemical by just eating better and being a little more aware.
Yeah. So interesting. We had kind of a funny thing, this past week, which is why I was not on the live. My son was not feeling well, and I had made this big pot of chicken soup like on autopilot because I was like, he's sick, he needs but it ended up being really hot that day, and by the time it came time for everyone to eat, I was like, like a big hot steaming bowl of soup. But we all came downstairs because it's a lot cooler in this lower level because it's half underground back here, and it was perfect. It was the perfect temperature. We could all eat our soup, but just the thought of eating a really warm, yummy, nutritious soup, but when it was warm out, was kind of too overwhelming, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So depending on what kinds of foods you choose, or spicy foods, right, will definitely heat you up. And it's really interesting to figure out and to learn about which foods are heating and cooling foods.
Yeah, they're not always what you think. Right. So like the spicy kind of makes sense, or like a hot temperature, sure, but like actual foods are heating foods, and there's foods that are cooling foods.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
They're also tied to different parts of our cycle as well. That's the reason why I love that book, because we have 4 different parts of a female's menstrual cycle, and 2 of them are heating and 2 of them are cooling. And so to use different foods during those times to really support you. So
awesome.
Yeah, so that's chemically kind of makes a lot of sense, right? But if you're having just kind of a low energy day, some of the best things to do are just ask yourself, like, have I eaten today? What have I eaten today? I know that could be a hard question to ask ourselves sometimes, but like, was it something that was really fueling my system in a positive way? And if not, like, get some good nutrients in. Have I had water? You know, am I dehydrated? Yeah, and just making some choices around that are going to work to help sustain your chemical energy.
And now you can have this like really cool line, and people are like, "Wow, you're eating so different." You can be like, "Wow, are you on a diet?" Like, no, I'm eating for my chemical energy.
Yeah, totally. Eating to support my chemical energy. Yeah, I love it. It's so good. And then for electrical energy, there's kind of a different myriad of things that you can do. The things that I thought were the most applicable for this space were 1, move your body, right? Which makes sense. But in order to support our electrical nervous system working at its peak, we need to move. And especially right now, and I am feeling this on like every level. My master's program is online. Everything else is online. I'm sitting a lot. And I'm noticing the difference, because I went from a job where I hardly ever sat, like all day, to working with young children. And I definitely notice it a lot. So definitely moving your body, getting good sleep. And, we've talked a bit about just sleep and what that looks like. And if you have questions about sleep, there's a great podcast I did in the Thrive with Anxiety podcast about sleep and how important it is, and the different ways that you can really look at yourself. And when anxiety is coming up for people, it can be really hard to get good sleep. And so what are the tools and strategies that we can use to sleep and rest well? And then the third thing, which I love, because we've been talking about this with not even thinking about it in an electrical energy type of way, is paying attention to your posture. And so we've been talking about this, right? Like, so many of us are over like screens, over our phone. Liz has talked about this being called, what is it? Forward neck syndrome or something, Liz? What is the name of that? Or what is this?
Forward head posture, FHP.
Forward head posture, forward neck syndrome. Yeah, that was close.
I mean, whatever works. You got that forward head.
I did every time I'm on my phone or computer, though. I'm like, I think about that and I raise it up. So, like, consider raising your screens to eye level. Consider sitting on an exercise ball instead of a chair if you're at work or at your desk, right? Because it forces you to have good posture in order to be really stable, right? And becoming aware of your posture when you're sitting, when you're standing, when you're lounging on the couch, right? We talked about how this kind of curled curvature of the back really depresses all of the organs. We talked about this with the ease keys, which is why gravity up and making room within your rib cage, moving your rib cage. What's the actual name of that one, Liz? Do you remember?
Oh gosh, that's so funny. I was just teaching someone this last night, and I was like, "Oh, there's this one where you do this." I can't remember the name.
I can't remember.
You can visit. You can visit our lives if you haven't seen it, or our YouTube channel, which will. But we did. Oh, I don't know if that was on the YouTube channel, but where we dance through the different movements and talk about the names. But
so fun.
Yeah, I think it's just like rotate some. I don't know.
But really just creating space in this area of your body for your organs, because if you're sitting with a posture where you're hunched over, that sends signals through your nervous system of depression up to your brain. So if you're on the couch and you're slumped over and you're just like, I feel horrible, get up. Make an effort to really roll your shoulders back, keep your neck in a neutral position, sit upright, stand, go for a walk. Again, we've talked about this in the sense of breaking emotional patterns as well, like move, right?
Yeah. And I love, I'm going to add in here, because you can do a bunch of these pretty quick. And what I really like thinking about is doing the opposite movement of what you're doing, right? Because your body has like antagonistic muscles, and honestly, sometimes if we do one movement over and over again, which we often do, that's when we start to feel like discomfort or pain because of that pattern of movement, right? And often a way to support that is to do the opposite. So like if we only walk this way, we do need lateral movement, which is why yoga is so good, because it does so much to the body in all these different directions, and we push and we pull, right? Yeah. I remember, so I'm a rock climber and I pull a lot, and I had injured, like I just felt a lot of like a tennis elbow in my arm, and I kept reading books and looking it up and like treating it and wrapping it, and I was like, but I still want to climb. Do I just stop climbing? Well, that was a no for me, right? But I would do all these things to like cater to the issue, and then I picked up this book that talked about like climbing injuries, and this is years ago, and I ended up reading about like supporting the opposites. I'm pulling, I'm not pushing at all, right? So I started climbing, and then I would do push-ups after my climb. And I healed my tennis elbow from just supporting the opposite muscle that wasn't being supported.
That makes so much sense. Yeah.
So on that light, like if we are all doing this, right? We're all this is typing, if you didn't know, or creepy spiders coming across my computer. This is typing, right? We're all turned in, right? Flip your arms, put them underneath the table, right? You just, if you can reach your table, right, you can do this right now, right? And then just kind of lift up, and you'll watch my shoulders when I do this. See how they go back, right? You're actually engaging your shoulders and muscles in your back that are being disengaged when you're this direction, right? So you can think about, at the same time you do that, take a breath, a break on the hour, every hour, look up at the horizon, right? That's one of those ease keys we talked about, where you open up your vision, expand it. I'm looking at the rooftop outside my window here. That's quite far away. And I'm lifting up and I'm taking a deep breath, right? How the number of things you're resetting and the number of just signals you're sending to your brain, right? To rewire is super helpful, right?
Yeah, that's amazing. I think it's called floating the rib cage.
Oh, okay. Not rotating.
Yeah. Just popped into my head. All right. And so for thermal energy, really the way that we can care for our system is just to really be mindful of our temperature, right? And what's your ideal temperature? Where do you feel comfortable? And if you're where you are able to be in that ideal temperature, like what are you going to do to support yourself to stay comfortable, right? Because it's not good for anyone to get too cold or overheated, right? And again, talking about what Liz talked about, overlapping with chemical energy and just utilizing foods that are cooling and warming, right? And how that can be a really good modality for helping to really support our thermal energy. We have our cold water immersion showers and our cold blast. That could be another way that you could work on that too. Super cool. So there's other things that we're going to explore in the coming weeks. So this was just mostly a little bit of a scientific dive into the different energies in the body. And we'll talk further about, where and how anxieties sort of get stuck in these different areas in the body, right? And what we can do to really move out of those things with breath and the other modalities that we will just talk about in the next few weeks. So
excited to share. Bonnie, why don't we all end with, and I'll say, so next week we'll share, bring your journal. This will be
we won't be here next week, remember?
Oh, I thought
is it the week after?
It's the week after we're gone, not next week.
Okay. Yeah, Wednesday. Oh, it is. You're right. Thanks, Liz. You know my schedule better than I. Next week we'll be here. The following week we will not.
That's right.
Yeah.
But next week we will do we're going to use a mindfulness-based cognitive therapy tool that actually I used in the training last week with the folks from Andrus. And so bring your journals. But it's looking at something, just looking at something from the angle of energy to kind of give us insight into how we view and look at our day-to-day, our work, our lifestyle, ourselves. So join us for that. but you want to reset, Bonds. Let's all reset together.
Yeah.
So, a couple of those ease keys, just fix your posture, right? So just sit up tall, something obviously I wasn't doing until just this moment. And then let's all look away from our screens and look up at something a little further away, even if you have to turn your head or turn your body to do so, right? And then if you have something in front of you, you can place your hands underneath and just pull up. Otherwise, you can kind of just dangle your arms and flick your fingers, right? We did this one a couple weeks ago that people loved, which was just like pumping the arms up and down, right?
Love it.
And if you do want a reset of a different kind, you can lift your arms up. My palms are up. So I'm like trying to work the camera here. Thumb is facing back, right? And just lift your arms up and you'll feel like a stretch in the chest, right? The head, this is more heart opening. Palms are flat. If you hold this for long enough, you're going to feel definitely some energy in parts of the arms that that need to move a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not a common state. We don't walk around the world or run like this. Yeah. But equally, woo. All right. And then shake it out.
Shake it out.
And let's end with a long breath, Bonds. In through the nose, out through some pursed lips. Here we go. Well done.
So good. I'm so happy to have everyone here today. If you haven't seen the link for the film that I posted about the wisdom of trauma, and you're interested in it, definitely go and check it out. It's free for viewing for this week only. And then there's options, affordable options to have access to the film, and then all of this speakers content. And what's cool is Stanley Rosenberg and Stephen Porges, two of the men that are really integral in polyvagal learning theory, which is tied to all the ease keys stuff we're teaching. They have some talks within there. And anyway, there's just a really neat variety of people that are showing up that are doing this work. Gabor Mate and, other just really well researched people that have been doing work in the realms of trauma. And so, yeah, I'd highly recommend it. And if you have questions about anything that comes up in there, please let us know. Yeah.
I would support you watching this movie. I just watched it. Bonnie sent it to me. I just watched it. It's highly informational, right? Like it gives you a lot of insight into just really not even just like the human experience. Right. Which there's trauma in each of our lives in different capacities. Right. So the human experience, it's really fascinating. So hopefully
it is about trauma. So there's some definitely triggering stuff in this film. So just to be aware of that.
Smart. Yes. Good Bonds. Which they also disclaimer at the beginning. Right.
They do. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Sending love sparkles to everybody.
Bye, Trish. Bye, Kristen.
Yeah. We will see you soon.